Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United pod. I'm your host, TC. Alongside me today is your co-host, Ben. How you doing, pal?
Hello, mate. Yeah, still a bit cheesed off, to be honest, by the game. But how about you?
Yes, mate. I'm not happy at all. This is not going to be a lively pod today. Normally, when we record the pod a day later, you get a bit more perspective, don't you? But unfortunately, I still feel pretty bad after yesterday. And thanks so much for jumping on today. Apologies to everyone. We didn't come on post-match yesterday. Unfortunately, Scott got snowed in the mountains with no power. So, and then he was travelling today. I think he made it out. So. Ben, you've come to save the day, mate. Unfortunately, it's the graveyard shift, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, Scott might consider himself lucky that he missed the game yesterday because it wasn't one. I think he'll be watching back the full 90 minutes, will he?
No, I mean, the thing is, as a United fan, we'd do it anyway, wouldn't we? If you miss a match, you'd always watch the full 90. You've got to watch it all, no matter how good or bad it is. But it was pretty bad yesterday, Ben. And on today's show, we will look back on Manchester United losing at Old Trafford to Wolves 1-0. The display was not good. The result, of course, was not good at all. The first loss under Ralf Rangnick. And there is the bad feeling seems to be seeping back into Old Trafford, Ben.
It does because, look, we did this after the previous game, didn't we? And we were saying we don't want to be too negative before that and give Ralph time and let these implement his ideas. But after this game that we've seen, there's just and I'm not putting this down to one person because we'll go into a load of things tonight, but it just seems there's just a total disconnect, isn't there, in terms of what Rangnick's trying to get across, how the players are playing on the pitch, the formation, the personnel, the way we're playing, the intensity we're playing at. It was an absolute shambles, wasn't it, last night? And
it was.
It was a sort of performance that infuriates you as a fan because it's a simple form. Look, we can take performance. We've seen many games against Wolves, in fact, over previous years and recent years that have been a bit boring, have been a bit lacking something, but we got the job done. But that game last night, there was so much wrong with it. But on a basic level, the intensity and what you saw from the players on that pitch was just not up to scratch.
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. There's no skirting around that issue. That was plain for everyone to see. I do think that there is a number of factors we do still have to take into consideration, right? I think first of all, I think that I've never known a manager go into any club and it just to be sort of almost some pundits and people are trying to write him off after like a few games, or trying to question, right? Normally you say, look, it's a work in progress, right? It's a few games gone. There's a lot to change. So that's the first thing. It's almost like there's a few pundits, I'm not going to go into names today, I might do later, but who seem to relish the fact that it's going wrong or not going really, really right already. I think that's one factor, certainly. I think the second factor, Ben, I'll keep going back to this as well, is that the lack of action that we took when Ollie was a dead man walking, and those extra games and the psychological impact and the impact it had on the way we're viewed to the outside world and even internally by our fans, I can't quantify it. I don't know how much effect it has, but I would presume, conceding 4 to Leicester and 5 to Liverpool and 3 to City and however many we chucked in at Watford would not help the starting block for the next manager, right? We definitely moved too late. So that's another factor. There are more, but I'll let you come in there, Ben. Otherwise, I'll be rambling on for the next 20 minutes.
No, you're right. And that sense of urgency that hasn't been with the club for you could say the last even just short of 12 months, couldn't you, after the Europa League final last season, and the fact that since then we sort of stuttered a little bit, and then the job got done in the transfer market fairly late on, let's be honest, but with the Varane and the Ronaldo deals, and then you're right, then when it came to a search for a new manager, it was stuttering and stalling again. But I mean, you look at it right now, look at the situation in the game against Wolves, and I think that I'll start with the players as a collective, because I think the players need to have a long, hard reality check, really, because this isn't a team that Ralf Rangnick is coming in off the back of them winning the league. He's not a David Moyes coming in and the players aren't quite convinced that he can he can keep up what they've been doing over the past few seasons.
Yeah.
For the large proportion of this squad, okay, you can obviously Ronaldo's got his trophies elsewhere in the past few seasons. You take De Gea and Jones, who won the Premier League the last time we won it, but there's not a lot of winners as this collective. They haven't won a lot of trophies together. They haven't won a lot of league titles together. They haven't won any league titles together, this team. So it's not like Ralph is coming into a team and then saying, yes, this is what we need to do. We need to implement new tactics, new ways of playing, and the players can sort of say, oh, well, we didn't do this last season and we got where? Second. So it's not like the players, if a new manager's coming in and trying to implement tactics, obviously that's on him, but it's down to the players to carry that out. And there just seems to be a real disconnect in the comments that Ralph makes pre and post match at the minute to then what you see on the pitch, doesn't it? Because a lot was made of the Geigen pressing and the whole counter press when he first came in, and it was very much a buzzword. And absolutely, and then we saw a little bit of against Crystal Palace, didn't we, in a spurt, and we all got a little bit excited. I got excited at seeing it, and then it seems since then, we joked about it, didn't we, on the previous pod, saying about being the half pregnant sort of analogy, and it seems like it's all over the pitch in the minute. But it just seems really strange when you see how we set up in terms of how the players played. That even you go to first 5 minutes against Wolves, we're under cosh straight away. We were sort of defensive lines. We were dropping deep. We weren't exactly pressing their back line. And you're thinking, this is Wolves at home. No matter who the manager was and the tactics, the players on that pitch should be playing with 100% intensity. They should be going into every tackle, into every ball, every pass. It should be laser sharp, shouldn't it? And it was just so off. But how do you explain that?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is something that you could say about United teams for a number of years now. Like, the intensity is not there. Those basics, when you wake up hungover on a Sunday morning and you still put them in, right? Yeah, sure, you might not get there very quickly, but you're still getting there as fast as you can, right? This has been lacking from United teams for a few years, and I must say, one of the things that we were sold as part of the Ollie package is that the team and the squad are going to be left in a better way. We will have weeded out all the bad eggs, and we will be ready with a squad who are all mentally in the right place and who are all ready to give 100% all the time. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have changed at all.
No, you're right, and it hasn't. And you've still got the likes of Martial, who's seemingly still training with the club, still on the club's social media channels as well. I see that he's still taking pictures. Oh, he's training well, and then he wants to leave, and he's still on God knows how much a week, and it's frustrating when you see this sort of stuff. But it is the basics. You're watching Wan-Bissaka not being able to make a 4-yard pass or not being able to control the ball. We said it with Rashford, not against Wolves, but in the previous games. When he came on, it wasn't too great either. But
right.
But try and make a 5-10 yard pass and not be able to make it. And you're right, it's those real simple things that we're not even being able to do. You're not asking for much when you're saying that.
No.
When you're saying run a bit faster, pass actually to a man. It's not asking for a reinvention of the team, because we haven't seen any new style of play almost, because we haven't seen anything from these players.
Do you think that is partly, Ben, because Rangnick's come in, he's assessed the situation and looked at small increases he can make, so small improvements across the field, right? And because logically, you'd have to be a madman to come in and change everything and expect it all to change overnight. It's never going to happen, right? So we have to keep remembering that Ralph is an interim manager, right? And the reason why you get an interim manager in is because it gives you that degree of flexibility. It also gives you that ability to cull people from the squad and not leave the rest of the squad upset with that man, because that man's gone, right? He can be the executioner who gets on the ship and leaves the land at the end of the season, or, he's in advisory position, but they're not going to be answering to him. So that position, we have to remember that. We have to remember that Rangnick is an interim manager. If we were hiring someone and we were trying to get the best manager coach we can possibly find in the world, Rangnick's not even on the list, is he? Right? Because Rangnick, the things that he has done great in his career are build things, rebuild things, spot talent, hone coaches. Of course, yeah, he's got his philosophies, he's got his management, his coaching going on as well. But we haven't hired him for that, have we? We can't have. Otherwise, it's crazy, right? So we've got an interim manager because we believe he can rebuild the club and then put it in the hands of a different manager to take us forward. So we have to be patient, Ben. We have to be patient with this.
Oh, of course we do, and that's what we said on the last pod, that the Ralph needs time with the team on the training ground. Look, when he's coming in, it's not been ideal circumstances. That's partly down to the club, and like I say, they're stuttering over sacking Ollie and waiting for the international period and that whole situation in itself. But then also, obviously, with the COVID outbreak, and I'm not saying there's anything you do about that, but the Carrington not being open, and you say all these factors, it doesn't give a manager everything that they want. But I think it told it all when Rangnick said after the game that some of these habits he saw before he came to the club. In other words, he said
Didn't
that.
we all, Ralph?
Yeah, but doesn't that say everything? It puts the onus on the players. And look, I think there's questions you can ask of the manager. Absolutely, I think we can question the formation. Question the formation throughout the game yesterday. The fact that it changed, and we can go into that and we can question that. But I think on a very, very just basic level, when you hear him say that after the game, when you hear Luke Shaw after the game say, "Not everyone on the pitch felt together." Oh, come on! What? That is basic level of being in a team, let alone a football team at Manchester United playing at home in the Premier League.
You know what, Ben? Luke Shaw has been given those interviews for a very, very long time. I remember back in Ollie's first year was the winter. It must have been. We're talking a couple of years ago, right? A couple of years ago since Shaw. I remember him giving these interviews and saying next week we're going to be better and we've got to improve this, we've got to improve that. And I said, after a few weeks of it, I said to Scott, he's got to stop saying this. This is crazy. You've got to either do it or stop saying it. And here we are we are in 2022, aren't we? And he's still saying it. It's like, I tell you what, why don't you just sort out your own performances first? Why don't you find a way that you don't need to be dropped or a firm competition to play at 100%, right? That's bad. That's a bad character trait. You shouldn't need someone on the bench to play well.
Yeah, and also
right?
the fact that he said it at the end of it, just before he left his post-match Shaw, that is, he said that something on the lines of maybe the manager can come with some new ideas to help us. And it's almost, look, I respect Luke Shaw for fronting it, but the way he's saying it, it's almost like he's shifting the blame, or the players weren't given 100%, the manager maybe can come up with something new. And you think, whatever the tactics, whoever was managing this team against Wolves, the basics were wrong from the players.
Yeah,
the attitude
exactly.
was wrong.
I mean, what do you do about Rashford not playing that pass into Ronaldo on the right?
Yeah.
You know, when it was basically play it right and you potentially, got a goal scoring opportunity coming here, and he plays it into touch. And you know what, Ben? If we take out those misplaced passes and we look at passes, just feast your eyes on one of the Fergie teams from the past and watch the way Scholesy pushes players onto the ball. He managed those wingers. Those wingers weren't always making the right runs. Scholesy was making them make the right runs, playing that ball to bring them onto it. And I hate it because, I watch other teams in the Premier League, teams at the top at the moment, and I watch just simple passes to the right, to the correct foot, right? Just playing it to the players if they're right footed to their right. Just little things like that I see. With us, it's we just chuck them to each other. We just chuck the pass. Yeah, you deal with it. You deal with it. There's no management of those intricate little details that make you into an absolute top footballer.
Yeah, and we're
football team as well.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about getting to a level where we're at the top of the league teams level. We're not even talking about that now. We're talking about literally, can you play a triangle ball between three of you? Can you create a little bit of space? Can you create a 1-2? And it's very, very, very basic level football, isn't it? It doesn't take a high IQ of football. We don't need Scholes in there in this. Well, I mean, we could do with him, but we don't need it doesn't need that to be able to do that. It's very, very basic level football that we're getting wrong, and you look at it and you think, how can you be playing for Manchester United? You also want some improvement. I'm watching players like Wan-Bissaka, and I mean, we on this podcast especially, we hate drawing players out and having a go at people, but I think when it's needed, it's needed. And you're watching players like that, and you're thinking, especially the situation it is now with Ralf coming in, they know there's the likelihood is we get a top draw manager in the summer, and we. Do you know what I mean? All these players are now playing for their place effectively in this United future for the next couple of years at least. And you're watching players like that and thinking, Wan-Bissaka's had a free ride in the past sort of 18 months at times when he's been in poor form, he's still been putting the team every week. And you're watching him play a performance like that and you're thinking, what is going through his head? He can't even muster a pass, control the ball, play 1-2. When he gets in attacking position, he's running into the way of people. He's not. I don't know. There's no sense of improvement in terms of his awareness on the pitch, and you're thinking even defensively, I'm questioning him now as well. So you looking at some of these players, and you're thinking you're supposed to be fighting for your place here in a Manchester United team, and you see no evidence of that.
Yeah, it's worrying, isn't it? It's massively, massively worrying. Yeah, like I say, those players have got to look in the mirror and just wonder if they're up for it, right? If they're cut out for this, because although we might not have played very well over the last few years, millions and millions of people, they wake up at all hours to watch this team, support this team, whether we're playing rubbish, whether we're playing well, and those players carry that responsibility. It's all very well being entitled and enjoying the cash and the trimmings. But it's been way, way too long, Ben, that they've been sauntering out onto that field. And there's been, we're not talking about one. We're not talking about like someone's got a contract dispute and you notice he's been a bit naughty with his performance levels. We're talking, it's a large chunk of that squad.
Yeah, it is. And you're looking at it as well and thinking, we've not, I mean, even the fact that McTominay and Matic are playing in the midfield too together, how many managers have we seen, let alone like teams that have tried that and it not quite worked? And look, they did all right together the other night, but I mean, you're looking at it and just thinking, where do these players fit in the team even next week, let alone 6 months? So we're not even saying we're in a transition period here. We just want the players to turn up. It's not asking much, is it, when you start a game like that against Wolves in just such a downbeat way? You look onto the pitch and I think this team as well, and I was thinking it whilst I was watching the game yesterday, and I think a lot of them have a tendency to go where the game goes and just we've spoken about it in the pod before when we'll let a game drift, but they don't arrest the situation enough. They don't take control enough, and control is something that Ralf talks about a hell of a lot. But they let the game drift into a pattern. I thought it happened yesterday where Wolves, you know what you're going to get from Wolves. They're a solid team. They were looking to prey on any mistakes. They were looking to try and control the midfield a little bit, but we just sort of let the game go out. We let it sort of drift out.
Yeah,
and it just did that. And the fact that the Wolves goal came, and you sort of thought, well, on reflection, are we surprised? Not in the way we played.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the way events can play out, and we basically just lose our way, don't we, for a while, and we just don't get a foothold in the game. We're not putting anything together whatsoever, and it happens so often. It happens so often, like at the start of games. I mean, it often happens that even if we come out well for like 1 minute. In fact, we might have done that yesterday. You come out well for 1 minute, and then it just falls away suddenly. It is such a worrying thing to see in terms of because how many players do we actually have to replace? I don't think it's as many as we think it is, but it's still quite a few.
Yeah, and just on that. Just on the way that the pattern of the game and let it go as well, especially at home when you've got 75,000 plus fans in the stadium and a hell of them United fans, and you're thinking, look how excited we got when Bruno hit the bar, and how you could hear the roar from the crowd. But that was almost the first. And look, the United crowd are fantastic, and we'll sing even when we're down by 3-4 and whatever. But you've got to give the crowd something to feed off. You've got to use them in home games. You've got
Yeah,
to go into every tackle. You've got to make a run just for the sake of making a run and get the crowd up a little bit sometimes. And
yeah,
you saw glimpses of it. You saw Ronaldo sprinting down and chasing it, almost what looked like a lost ball and keeping the ball in play. I think we saw that, and the crowd got up a little bit then, and you saw a couple of tackles and the Bruno hitting the bar, but it's not enough. You're letting the game drift, and you're letting the, the game just seem open, and then it seems a very lonely time in Old Trafford or on the pitch because you're not giving them anything to feed off.
of course. I mean, and that's what we do, right? We make it a more level game than it should be. We allow the other team portions of the game that basically means that although we have far superior players than them, we level the playing field. And that's why it happens so often, Ben. That's why so often at Old Trafford or away, doesn't matter. But one thing I will say, Ben, is that we talk about controlling the game, and that's something that we totally lack. And I definitely think, and I was critical at the time, that I can't believe Ollie didn't sign a midfielder. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that we didn't sign a midfielder for one of those two positions, especially if you're going to play a double pivot all the time. Uh, of course, I think Ralf will go into the January transfer market. I mean, it's open, isn't it, now? So theoretically, we could have another body in there. And I do suspect, Ben, and this is just me guessing, I do suspect that this was Ralph's first loss. So I suspect that as long as he was getting away with it, he thought, right, let's keep trying to get the players used to this 4-2-2-2 because I do want to use it going forward. But I think, I mean, it's obvious, right? If me and you can look at that and say to control the game with this formation and those from that selection of holding midfielders or defensive style midfielders, it's a tall order. It's a tall order to control the game with that formation with not so much help. But I think he thought, look, we're getting away with it. We're still getting results. Let's see if we can get another body in January. And I just felt that maybe he missed the boat by a week, right? He should have, before the Wolves game, in hindsight, changed that up. So, you do have to put your finger at Ralph a little bit because back in the Ollie days, when he was playing the same formation week in, week out, and we thought, oh, that doesn't look right, we'd call him out. So I do think it possibly might be the time now for Ralph to move away from that formation temporarily or permanently. But I do also think that when you're unbeaten, you think maybe I can squeeze another week out of it, and the players might click.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, his managerial career at United so far is a little bit of a test so far because he's trying to figure out players in positions. You've seen him play Greenwood in different positions, up
Yeah,
top and out as one of the number 10s or wingers or whatever we want to call it in that 4-2-2-2. And we've seen different players playing different slots, and Rashford
yeah.
again play on the left, play up front. Bruno coming in, obviously he was on the bench to start against Wolves. I think you're right. Obviously that is what he's trying. I think the way we ended with the three at the back. I think you're right. And I think it is time to move on to a different formation because I think there's something that's just not clicking with that.
Just
And
too easy to find space, isn't it?
it is, and especially you saw it against Wolves. And Wolves, look, they've got two decent central midfielders in Moutinho and Neves, but they shouldn't have controlled that midfield as much as
No.
we allowed them to yesterday.
They're
And
not. They're not beasts, are they? They're not
they're not.
beasts who like you can do it all. They're blooming good midfielders. But yeah, come on, and especially Moutinho. I mean, how long's he been around for? Yeah, me. If
Yeah.
you get outrun by him, then you've got a big. His legs are about an inch long as well. God alive. Um, Look, Ben, let's get stuck into a few of the moments from the match and keep dipping back into to where we stand, of course, going forward as we go along. Let's start with the lineup. David De Gea, of course, in goal. The fullbacks, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, so they're back in now. And at centre-back, we had, unbelievably, the return of Phil Jones.
Yeah, Phil Jones, and to be honest, probably the only positive of the night, wasn't it? The fact that you saw him back in United shirt. It was
Yeah,
nice to see him back. I mean, we've heard the rumours, haven't we, in training for the past few months, and Ralph said
yes.
he'd been impressed with him. I think he wanted to put him in for the Champions League game, didn't he? But he wasn't registered in the squad, in the European squad. So look, it's nice to see him in back United shirt, and to be fair, he played all right, didn't he? He played pretty well, especially early on.
He did play all right, and I think it's just a nice reminder for us United fans as to how over the top people go when it comes to United. And yes, sure, they go over the top positive as well, but over the top negative as well, because you know, I've been told that everybody's granny is better than Phil Jones. But that's not true, is it? He was, he looked like a quite a proficient Premier League footballer yesterday, right? I've heard many people say, "Oh, if Phil Jones can play for United, I can." Well, I mean, not even close, because again, Phil Jones looked quite good. Phil Jones won a title for Manchester United as well. Phil Jones is I won't quite say bossed the midfield, but certainly was pretty close to bossing the midfield in the Bernabeu, playing
Yeah,
for United as well back in 2013. So I think that, of course, everyone likes a joke, and in the internet era, Phil Jones, unfortunately, his career path and the birth of the internet as of course a great tool and also a quite a nasty tool. The timing for Phil Jones is massively unfortunate. But look, I think I've said some things in the past because I thought that possibly he stayed longer than he should. Right? I think if he had left, 5 years ago, for instance, then there would be a different narrative attached to him now. So, but at the same time, Ben, I have to hold my hands up. If I played for United and I was getting injured and they kept on giving me a new contract and there was still a possibility, there was still a dream that I might play for United again, I'd hold on to it. And now you have to say fair enough because he's played for United again, right? He
yeah,
played for United again. So if I say, you're a blooming hero because if I could play for United one time, then this would be the greatest moment. So fair play.
yeah. Fair play to him. And look, injuries absolutely savaged his United career, hasn't it? For
Absolutely.
especially for the past sort of 4 years or whatever you can
And
say, isn't it?
sorry
Really?
to interrupt, Ben, but funnily enough, from you say injury has hampered him, and that is true. And the reason partly why he gets injured so much is because he goes too hard on the things that we were talking about earlier in the show. We're talking about passion. We're talking about giving 100%, flying in, without worrying about yourself, thinking about the team. Phil Jones is one of the people who's basically a sucker for that, right? He's into everything and he's paid the price. So as United fans, I find it weird to make a joke of him when it's partly his passion that results in being injured all the time.
It is, and he embodied that, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Like when he first came to United, it was clear to see he had natural ability, he had
yeah,
very good ability as a defender. But you're right, he would be that fan on the pitch that you want to see. He only knows one level, doesn't he? And that's
yeah,
100%. He goes into it with everything, and I think that's obviously something that he's taken into his career. He's been desperate to get back, and he's clearly had that as a goal, and doesn't want to do anything else to get back in the team. His career going forward, I'm pretty sure it'll lie elsewhere. But I think he's proved even just in this game that you're right. He could be a very very good Premier League defender if he stays fit.
yeah,
That's probably not United, but that
yeah,
doesn't matter. If the
exactly.
fact he keeps himself fit and has a decent rest of his career, then all look to him.
Yes. I seem to remember him playing number 10 a couple of times. Was that under Van Gaal or Fergie?
Well, it was the QPR Loftus Road corner was under
Oh,
Van Gaal, wasn't it?
that was, but he played number 10. I remember he scored a volley at Villa, and it makes me think that he was playing number 10 that day, but I think I might be getting a couple of things crossed over.
Yeah, let's romantise it as much as possible. We've already said he's bossed the Bernabeu, so let's add that to it as well, mate.
I didn't quite go that far, right? I did remember actually the other day, Ben. Remember I was talking about going to the Hawthorns, right?
Yeah.
For New Year's Day. It was Gary Neville's last game, wasn't it?
Oh, of
2011.
course.
His legs went before my eyes.
Was that when he didn't give a pen away, did he? But it was definitely a pen.
Oh,
Do you
you
remember?
could tell on
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was shocker, mate. And it was. I mean, you see it on TV and it looks bad, but when you're in the ground and someone's getting gobbled alive like that, it is pretty. It was nuts. And of course, like I told you, it was an early start kebab shop to the Hawthorns, and then it was Chicharito who grabbed the winner. It was 2-1. I told you it was a 1-goal win. I couldn't remember if it was 1-0 or 2-1, but Chico scored, and it was a glorious day actually. So yeah, that was that came back to me when over the New Year period.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying pre-match kebab. It looked like Neville had one from that performance, and he was absolutely
Yeah.
blowing.
I mean, my pre-match kebab was at like 5 or 6 o'clock in London, and then I was up to Birmingham. But yeah, it was. Yeah, those were the days, mate. The Hawthorns have had some good days there, I must say. Phil Jones started the game fantastically, didn't he? Towering header to begin the match. Welcomed himself back to Old Trafford, but Wolves were pretty decent even from the off, weren't they? We were. It wasn't like we got a foothold in the game and then it went wrong. It was pretty much from the start. Wolves were. They came to play.
They did. They'd done their own work basically, and seen where our weaknesses was, and you saw that with Bruno Lage's his post match interview, what he was saying, and you knew he could find the space behind our centre mids, on our full backs, and they did. They came to play the game, but I felt like
Yeah.
we let them do that.
Funny thing is, Ben, is that whatever formation you put these players in, unfortunately at the moment, I think we're going to see glaring gaps. It's not, you can't just take a group of players and put them in a formation and then suddenly it's perfect, right? It's partly the instincts, the way the players react to things that go on around them, and I think it's going to be a while until we see some really decent football out of United. I really do, and I'm not worried about that, Ben. Like, we've got an interim manager in. I bought into it, and it would be crazy to start going over the top about this now. Interim manager, the whole point is we've given ourselves a chance to lay the table for the future and go into next season and beyond. I didn't want to blow this season, Ben. I didn't want to write this season off. I wanted us to sack Ollie way back before the Leicester game and get a proven winner in Zidane or Conte in now and try and win the league and the Champions League this season. That was my plan, right? That's out the window. So now I'm having to go along with a different plan, but I'm still on board. I can still see how we can, be successful next season. I mean, it annoys me that we this season looks like we've blown it, but sometimes you just have to roll with it, Ben. I'm fed up with being negative. I just want to believe. I just want to hope, and having an interim gives you that flexibility.
Yeah, well, look, we've said before, with United, there's always an overreaction,
Yeah,
whatever way, whether we win or we lose. Not from our own fans, but I mean just in general from the media, from everyone. And you see it, of course you do. If we lose, everything's falling apart. If we win, we're winning the league. It's like the two extremes. We can't have
yeah,
anything gauged in between that. And I think you're right. Look, it's important that we come on tonight and we have a go at the team and we have a go at the decisions that were made during the Wolves game, because they were dreadful. The team was dreadful. But come next week, we've got a chance in the FA Cup now, which is a cup competition
yes,
we're still in, that
yeah,
let's be honest, we should be winning it. So
yeah.
let's go and get into that. And look, like it's not all hope lost.
No,
It's not suddenly Ralph was a messiah and now is out the door. It's we get caught in between extremes at times, and I think
we do.
it's finding that level, isn't it? And we spoke about it in the last pod where it's finding the level of the reaction, but then it's also finding something that is a truer sense of where the club and where the team's at.
Yeah, basically, mate. I mean, it was a massive stretch, wasn't it, to win the Premier League this season anyway. We're still in the Champions League. We're still in the FA Cup. If you take the Premier League out of the equation, those are the two trophies we want to win. Win the League Cup, there's still will be United fans who are still not happy. So we're still where we were. And in football, things can change so quickly. They really can. You can't remember. You think, really, were we in that situation a few weeks ago? So you're right. You're absolutely right, Ben. We can build. The danger is that top four spot, isn't it? Because Spurs look like they're going the right direction. Arsenal suddenly perked up as well. And you don't want a new manager coming in with no Champions League football. However, a few managers have won the league in that situation, haven't they? So, yeah, it's like you say, the season's still alive. Like I've said to you before, I think we've got a shot. If we can pull it together with the players we've got in cup competitions, far worse teams have won them.
Yeah, look, now's a flashpoint, isn't it? Ralph's remit when he first came in the door was a number of things, but amongst them was get top four, secure that for next season,
Yeah,
and the cups alongside his whole building a philosophy and stuff that is obviously the more long term stuff. But for
yeah,
initial, that is what matters. We know the top four matters massively to the club and in terms of financially as well, we know the top four is a very much a club thought out ambition every season. Whether we obviously as fans we want to be in the league every season, but we know that is the remit from the club for the manager coming in, for Ralph coming in, and then it's the cup competitions, and
Of
that's
course.
still alive. All three of them are still alive. You know, you mentioned Arsenal, you mentioned Spurs. I mean, Arsenal were in absolute disarray, weren't they? Only about 3 months ago, and now
Exactly.
suddenly everyone's fancying them for top four, and Spurs, even though they're with Conte, are still Spurs. So I think we've always got that. It's not totally thrown away.
No.
We looked at this run and we said it's a really good run. You know, we were all tossing it up of 3 points here, 3 points there,
Yep.
and let's get to February and we've won them all. And we were all doing that in our minds when looking at the fixture list, but
Yes.
it's not happened. We've stuttered through it. We've took the hit now,
Yeah.
and now it is the flashpoint. It needs to be turned around against Villa. It needs to then create a bit of momentum. We need to go in and pick up those wins again and pick up the form. But you're right.
But still, Ben, if you look at the last 10 games of form under the previous regime and the
Yeah,
first 10 games since that regime finished, so you include the Carrick games, right? Then, I mean, it's night and day.
yeah,
So I don't know what people are expecting. This is pretty much as good as it could have been, right? And I know Carrick's got the claim to a couple of them, but Ralph's not our long term manager anyway. So I don't care about Ralph getting a few more brownie points or a few less. Who cares, right? Manchester United, we won those games. So since Ollie went, you look at the results. It's pretty much as good as it gets, Ben.
yeah. I mean, look, you take the
I
blot as
mean,
the Wolves game as the one blot on that, but
but you don't come on. You don't go from losing 5-0 and 4-0 and 4-1 and that kind of stuff to then winning 10 games on the trot, right? That's not happening. So what I'm saying is, of course, it could be better, right? You could win every game. You could win 100-0, yeah. But what I'm saying is that from the situation we were in, bleeding goals, losing games, like laughing stock, to this, that I'm saying it's about as big a change as it could have been results wise.
yeah, no, I
If you
hear
look
you,
at it,
and look, I think the reason we're saying why it came up against Wolves is we're saying it was bad habits, aren't we? We're
yeah,
saying that we've almost
they'll creep back in.
exactly we've not stuck a plaster on them because I think it's less temporary than that, but we've tried to arrest the problems, tried to fix problems, and you're right, it's those bad habits creeping back into players' games.
Yes. Now look after on the 7th minute, Jadon Sancho was through and unbelievably selfish in this situation. He was lucky Ronaldo was captain, wasn't he?
Oh, like they know when to pass.
I mean, he was so lucky Ronaldo was captain because I think Ronaldo might have chucked him through the blooming wall if he wasn't, because that was just, I mean, it was just, there was no rhyme nor reason for him not to pass there. And Sancho is the man. I've seen him so many times. He plays that ball. He plays that ball. He'll play that ball to a youngster, let alone play the ball to the greatest goal scorer of all time. I couldn't get my head around it, Ben. I really couldn't.
No, and then later on in the game, you saw him making the passes when he could have had a pop himself. It was
Yeah.
just really, really
Yep.
poor decision making.
Yeah, yeah. I just realised we didn't go through the rest of the team, did we? McTominay, Matic, Bruno, Sancho, and Cavani and Ronaldo up front. Ronaldo captain.
Yeah, Captain, that was something that you called for, wasn't it? Especially on the last pod we did.
Well, yeah. I said, if we've got Cristiano Ronaldo, we might as well go all in on it, because this half in, half out thing isn't working. You get the best out of Ronaldo, and it's worth a shot, Ben. It's worth a shot. But yeah, couldn't believe that from Sancho. David De Gea had what I'd call a regular stop from Podence. Wan-Bissaka vacated his position, but then David De Gea, almost a few seconds later, his stop from Ruben Neves was absolutely superb. I mean, that stop, it looked quite good, but it was way, way better than it looked.
Yeah, it was, and that's what he's got in his locker, isn't it?
Yep.
We shouldn't be having to call upon him this much, but we are, and that's what he pulls out. It's you're not surprised by it, but it's a cracking save nonetheless.
Well, it's almost like relief from us, isn't it, that he's back
Yeah,
to those kind of levels. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to line up, doesn't it? When we're playing well, then the levels drop, and then when we start playing rubbish again, Dave's back to save the day. So there was more pressure from Wolves, wasn't there? There was, again, minute after minute. of pressure. De Gea had to beat away a Semedo shot as well. It wasn't looking good, even after 20 minutes, Ben. Finally, we had an attack. Wan-Bissaka crossed in for Ronaldo, too high even for him. But after 20 minutes, Ben, we were second best. There was no way to argue out at that point. We were simply second best.
We were, and this is what we're talking about, where you need something to change. You need to try and just change the momentum a little bit. And I feel like we just settled into that pattern. We let Wolves just come at us, and then, like I say, with that Wan-Bissaka cross, it was the odd break here and there, but it wasn't us knocking the door down. It was them completely in control of the ball with very little pressure on it and just really controlling the game up to them.
It's almost at a stage now where you have to start treating the players like children and say, the worst 3 players in the first 10 minutes are getting subbed. You know what I mean? It's like, literally, like, what can we possibly say to you for you not to come out at the start of a half and stink the place out? Or to come out for 5 minutes and then once you got that out of your system, then to start stinking your place out. I don't know what we can do apart from, like I say, treat them like kids and make threats.
Yeah, because you can expect that almost if you're at the 95th minute and you blow in and you've worked hard for the full game and you're 2-0 up and you're just trying to conserve the victory and just get the win. But to do it in the first 20 minutes, it's inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, it gives the impression to us fans that they don't care enough. That's the impression it gives, I'm afraid. We went through the motions again, that more pressure from Wolves, and then another Wan-Bissaka cross from the right, again too high for Ronaldo. It was like Groundhog Day. And once again, Ben, the shoot brigade were out for Scott McTominay. 35 yards out, players all around him, bodies in the way, and a massive shoot. Honestly, how is that helping the team? How is it helping the team at all? And I know I go on and about, and everyone loves it. They think the Shoot Brigade, is a catchy name, but it really does. It really does annoy me, Ben. It really does.
He got a whole load of air and not a lot of ball as well, didn't he, Scott?
It's crazy stuff. We were probing just before the 35-minute mark. Mason Greenwood, he almost popped out the other side of a pack of Wolves players, didn't he? Little dribble. He popped out the other side. I thought he still had the ball. With the goal gaping, unfortunately fell at the last hurdle.
Yeah, and it did look like a bright spark in amongst it if we could get the ball to him, because he was the one that was prepared to take on a man or two that we've been saying that we needed from those wide players in this formation. We need him to be able to take on a man as well as cross the ball. And
yeah,
he was getting there, but you're right, it just got crowded out. There was a lot of times that happened, whether it was Greenwood or Wan-Bissaka on the right, where they got the ball, moved into a position and then just got crowded out either by Wolves players or, to be honest, by our own players just getting in the wrong positions.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing we have to look at, right? Is Mason Greenwood playing in that withdrawn position on the right, almost like sometimes as a right winger in a 4-4-2, sometimes as a number 10. Let's not forget, we've already taken him away from being a striker. We've pushed him wide right, which, he's occupying those positions where he can make a bit of space and get that lethal shot out. However, when he's in this position, I can see the conundrum as a manager, because he does some things so well, and you think, look how well he held the ball up in that situation. Look how well he released that player in that situation. But 90 minutes of him playing in that position, it's not right. And I think that's another thing we've got to look at, because he looks a bit lost at times. And I fair play to the guy. I mean, he's already learnt one new position at a professional level, and now he's being given another script to learn. So it's a tricky one for him. I don't blame him. I think it's something that the people above him need to work out to get the best out of him.
Yeah, you need Mason closer to goal. Of course you do. Because his whole ability, it's beating a man, it's getting shots off, it's his finishing ability. And look, there's still improvements to be made to his game to be able to hold up the ball if you want him to play as a central striker. But that's his development. He's only young. We know the other things he brings to his game. So yeah, you've got to get him closer to the opposition goal, really, and then you get him bearing down on fullbacks, isolating defenders, and then you see the real danger of the man.
Yeah, and then we're talking about beating a man and banging him on the top corner instead of beating a man and playing a ball out wide.
Yeah,
absolutely. Jimenez had a header wide. Ronaldo was trying to do a back header, wasn't he? Trying to head back to De Gea. It was intercepted. The header went wide. It did end up that it was offside, but again, close shave. Cavani blazed over when he had quite a lot of time, didn't he, on the edge of the box just before half time. He's not renowned for his long range goals, but he had a hell of a lot of time, Ben.
Yeah, and like we said with the Sancho one before, it just seems to be a catalogue of just poor decisions, just taking stuff a bit rash or making the wrong sort of decision at the wrong time. You're right, he had time there, and he just was so rash with it and so poorly timed, which you don't expect from him.
You don't. Not from Edinson Cavani, certainly. Jones was well in again at the end of the half, and the half time came. And yeah, a pretty bad one. I mean, I know the guys on Discord were asking, was that worse than Newcastle first half? That was the question doing the round. I would say no. What about you?
Was it worse? I think it was probably on par. If we're being brutally honest, I think Newcastle, and you looked at St Maximin, have probably got that extra player that was able to put us under a little bit more pressure. Whereas you look at Wolves and they controlled it a bit more. So I'd say, look, I mean, attacking wise from us, it was the worst I've seen in a while. Yeah, because we just didn't get out. Did the defence ever really get up to the halfway line? A lot of times, that's what I mean. We didn't push out enough, did we?
Yeah, bad habits returned, didn't they? As always at half time, put you towards our friends over at vintageunitedshirts.com. Use our promo code United100 for 10% off all the shirts, shorts, socks on the store. You can use Icons100 for their artwork as well. We've got our Patreon member, Will Mellish, actually. So, I tried his name twice, got it wrong both times. He chose the David Beckham art piece, which I presume would be the piece that you'd choose as well, Ben, if you won the competition.
Yeah, you know me well, don't you?
I do indeed, mate. Absolutely. I think it's Giles' favourite. I think it's quite popular, the David Beckham one. So if you're a Becks fan, jump over there, vintageunitedshirts.com. That is on the way to Will. So congratulations to him. As I say, get over there. If you're not familiar with Vintage United shirts, I always talk as if you are, because I think it's the same people listening every week. But of course, we've got new listeners. So Vintage United shirts, stock old Manchester United shirts from the 90s, 2000s. You've got all your classic players there, and you've got new players coming in all the time. So if you've got a favourite, you go over there to vintageunitedshirts.com. You can't find them, by all means, send Giles a message. Send me a message if you want on our Instagram. DM me at United100 Podcast. I'll get in touch with Giles. And you can get your mitts on all those glorious shirts maybe you had as a kid, but you can't quite squeeze into that small boys anymore. So get over there, vintageunitedshirts.com. And like I say, well done to Will. If you want to become a member, get over to patreon.com/United100. Got a few different levels on there. We've got the Discord chat. You got some perks with Vintage United and the competitions as well, as I just mentioned. So if you're a big fan of the pod, have a look over there on Patreon. And Ben, listen, mate, we started the second half very well, didn't we? But only for the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's all we can muster at the minute.
Yeah, it was Sancho dancing down the left, again sloppy to Ronaldo. But it was a bright start. We certainly carried Ralph's words onto the pitch for at least 30 seconds, I'd say.
Yeah, well, these bad habits, is that the amount of time that Ralph has the impact to make on his team then?
Yeah.
Is that what we've got it down to?
Imagine you tell them what to do, they go out and they do it for 30 seconds and then just revert to type. You would be, tearing your hair out. You really would. It's about time you start losing hair, actually, isn't it? Old Ralph. He's a lot older than he looks.
He might look it in 6 months' time. Let's see how the rest of the season goes for him.
Yeah, you mentioned Moisey earlier and Ollie. It's not good for your looks being Manchester United manager. I'll tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, fresh face when they come in, but
yeah,
at the end of it,
leather boot when they leave. Yeah, So a little bit of a bright start, but yeah, again, Wolves got their foot into the game, a foothold. There was some proper hold-up play from Mason Greenwood a couple of times, 10 minutes after half-time. Did that catch your eye as well, Ben? When he held the ball up once, ball came into him again, and it was proper top level hold up play. I mean, it was around the halfway line, so it wasn't sort of central striker stuff, but it did show that if under the right guidance and under the right the right plan to get the best out of Greenwood, that's something that could become a big part of his game too.
Oh, massively. And it's a little bit frustrating, though, isn't it? That we're saying again this season that we just want to see him a bit more in those forward positions, being able to develop this into his game properly. Because you're right, he can add that into his game. The hold up play, he's always had the ability to beat a man, but when he's doing it on the halfway line and he needs the support around him, it's you then asking Mason Greenwood to then beat 3-4 players to make a pass, and then you want him to be on the end of it as well because of his ability. So it's one of those, isn't it? That we know how much he's got in him and how much he's got to go. So it's unlocking it, isn't it? And just getting it as close to the opposition goal as possible.
And at the moment, we do have a situation where, of course, I'd play Cavani and Ronaldo too. So you think, can we squeeze Greenwood in as well? And that's basically what's happening, because you're talking about playing as a striker. We've got two striker positions now. So you'd think that's perfect for Greenwood, wouldn't you? On the right of the two, it gets him closer to goal than his previous position. And instead, he's further away in that dropped number 10. So there was a bit of pressure from us. But again, it ended with a break for them and a shot deflected behind. So, we have a few minutes pressure and we're building. And then they get the best chance out of it. So it's an unbelievable habit, but we still have it. And then Mason Greenwood came off for Bruno Fernandes on the 60th minute. What do you think of that, Ben?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. Look, Bruno Fernandes coming on, I can obviously get on board with, but the fact that Greenwood was coming off, who, even just by us speaking this about the second half, and he was the one that was getting the ball, that was able to hold it up, that was trying to beat a man, and you even looking across the opposite position and the opposite wing, and you're thinking Sancho, the amount of bad decisions, the amount of poor touches, poor balls he gave away in the game. I couldn't understand it for the life of me why he chose Mason to come off first.
It was a weird one, a really weird one. I mean, of course, you replace a striker, if you like, by trade with a midfielder, and Sancho is a midfielder by trade as well. So, and I do think those number 10 positions at the moment we're a bit too attacking, but for what they provided, Greenwood played the position better on the day. So I agree with you. It shouldn't have been Mason Greenwood. Bruno hit the bar 7 minutes after coming on. Possibly should have done better. Of course, it was a big chance, but you see what he's trying to do: lift it and then spank it with a bit of pace. What do you think of that, Ben? What do you think of that chance?
Oh, he's got to score.
Yeah,
absolutely, he's got to score. Look, we've seen him scoring before. He's got to stick in the back of the net. He just gets too much lift on it, doesn't he?
It's that confidence we talked about. When it's high, everything goes right, and when it drops a little bit, you can be fumbling around you, and that's the kind of chance that would have been in without even thinking at one stage in his United career. So yeah, and then we had the ball in the net, didn't we? Cristiano Ronaldo burying the goal. Unfortunately, he had strayed just a little bit offside. It looked even before the goal was given that it was going to be offside, didn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it was the old trick, wasn't it, that didn't quite come off, but the striking a free kick of be offside and get onside before the ball's taken when the defence dropped. But
yeah,
I always remember, my first sort of experience, it was watching Ralf Van Nistelrooy do it to a great deal of success and to a lot of frustration of opposition defenders. But
yeah, it was a big talking point at the time, wasn't it? Because he did it so blatantly. It wasn't just I'm just creeping offside and then coming in. He would literally go and stand there. And although as United fans we loved Ralf Van Nistelrooy, for some reason he really wound up other fans, especially Arsenal fans, but other fans in general. He really wound them up. So he, by doing that, it just added to the notoriety of the man.
Yeah, it made you love him even more when he's hated by opposition fans as well.
Of course, absolutely.
Of course it does. But yeah, on that one, it's just the Wolves' defence didn't drop. Ronaldo didn't get out in time, and And that's what it came down to, wasn't it?
Of course. And you want to be trying things. You really do. Ronaldo raced away a minute later, out on the left. He was very far out, a very acute angle on his left foot. Still though, Ben, you still think when he's pulling the trigger, you still think maybe, because it's Ronaldo. You really
Yeah,
do, don't you? I thought,
you
what's he going to
do.
do here? Dip one over the keeper. But unfortunately wide. Scott McTominay galloped through a minute later. So we had a little period of possession and pressure that we hadn't seen. McTominay, of course, dancing through there. Matic was given a yellow for slicing down Traore on the edge of the box. It's what I would call a top value yellow card, Ben.
Yeah, it was almost an orange one, wasn't it? It was
Yeah, it's like money's worth.
everything that, I mean, it was the most obvious yellow card you've ever seen. And you could see it coming, couldn't you? As soon as Traore picked up the ball and set off, the makeup of the situation, you could see everything coming in. And Matic knew he was never ever in a million years getting there.
Yeah.
And the yellow card, you could see it coming.
Yes, I was thinking great value, and then of course you think, oh god, they got the free kick now. So you're thinking that's great value as long as this free kick does not go in. And of course he hit the bar, but Dave had it covered, didn't he? It was one of those ones where it hits the bar, but the keeper's getting there. If it's a few inches lower, Dave's popping his hand out. So no problems with that. Great play by Matic to get there in time. He only just caught him before the box. Rashford came on for Jadon Sancho on the 76th minute. And then Shaw was in superbly. Again, not for the first time, actually. A minute later on, Jimenez. He got back a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in the match where he really looked like he was busting a gut to get there. Whereas in previous seasons and previous times of seasons, we haven't seen that desire.
No, we haven't. And look, that's exactly what you want to see. And just on Rashford as well coming on though, like, can you just, I don't know how do we sum up Rashford at the minute? It just seems a bit of a strange version of himself right now, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah, Ben, I've said it before. I said it when it first changed ages ago, when he just stopped smiling. He just stopped smiling on the pitch. And I at the time, I didn't know exactly what was wrong. And we talked about injury, we talked about many things. We talked about it loads of times. But yeah, it's something not right with Rashford. But I suppose you've still got that conundrum that you know the dynamism of the play, you know the pace of the player, you know the shot he's got on him. Maybe in training he's happy. Maybe in training he's smiling and he's banging in all kinds of shots and stuff. And you think, right, well, I know he's not performing on the field, but he's still got it in him. But yeah, it's a really weird one. It's been a long, long time.
It just does seem really tense, doesn't he? On the pitch, it just seems like everything's a little bit of a labour to do. Every pass is,
Yeah.
You can feel the frustration after he makes a pass. You mentioned him not smiling, but you can see it like on his face when he misplaces a pass. It's like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's not the reaction that you want to see, is it? It's not the reaction of fury. And now, right, that's it. I'm going to get back and do something about it. It's almost like, oh, well, that was bad, and now I'm going to think about it for a while and be a bit sad instead of, right, I'm furious. Like, I mean, Rooney used to he used to scare me when he used to react to things. I used to be in Old Trafford shouting, don't do it, because I'd see someone would nibble him, they'd win the ball, they'd race away, and Rooney would be, I'm not having it. I'm getting him, whether I get the ball, whether I get the player, I don't care. I'm getting him. And it used to scare me because I thought Rooney would get sent off. It was going to get sent off, but it's what you want, right? That's what you need. It's what you need. And unfortunately with Rashford, it is a disappointment, but he doesn't do anything about the disappointment.
Yeah, if we can just inject a little bit of a Wayne Rooney 40-yard sprint back to his own goal, then I'd take that every day.
And Rashford's got the gas. It's much easier for Rashford. Rooney had to dig deeper for those MPH, for those kilometres an hour. He had to dig. So yeah, I think that's another thing. But Ronaldo turned back into a right winger, didn't he? For a couple of minutes there as well, slung a couple of crosses in, and not too much to write home about. And then Ben, you thought, look, if we left this match drift. And are we going to get punished again and unfortunately Moutinho from the edge of the box. No one there to close him down. Right into the bottom corner. It took a couple of bounces on its way in. Not really a chance for David De Gea. But once again, Ben, we've got into a match. We haven't put our best foot forward. We've let it drift, and then we got done by a sucker punch against a team that is inferior to us once more.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. We've
Yeah.
we've seen it all before, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've seen the pattern. We've seen, like you say, just letting the game go into the pattern and just let it play out like that. And then we act surprised when we see it happen. We almost, like the way we play ourselves, we almost threaten it ourselves and think, oh,
Yeah.
what if? And then it happens. And we think, oh, well, what now? What do we do now? And you're right. Even the goal, the fact that he had so much space in the outside of the box, we've seen that many times before.
Of course we have. And we don't get those same gifts, do we? You don't see us. Maybe Cavani will have it 5 yards outside the box, but not a yard outside. 1-0 down. Alanga did come on for Wan-Bissaka, so that was a positive change, right? You can see the goal in the 82nd. That's what I want to see. Winger for a fullback. Bruno was playing suicide football again on the 86th minute, edge of our own box. The give the ball away, potentially 2-0, and we're losing the match, or we can start an attack. I'm not gonna dig him out too much because we're 1-0 down, but he does play the same kind of football when it's 0-0 as well.
It does, and sometimes it does cost us. You've got to admit that thing, especially when the midfield behind him is so little or so depleted in terms of numbers or in terms of even just players there.
Yeah.
Then that was against Wolves, but yeah, and by this point we were playing that sort of weird 3 at the back hybrid sort of formation that I couldn't really work out either.
Yeah. But that's fine for 5 minutes as well, right? I mean, we used to. One of Fergie's best tactics or favourite tactics was send a centre back up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, doesn't get more rugged than that. Just send. Who's the best centre back we got on the field at the time? Right, you're up front for the last few minutes. You know what? We should probably go back to that. It was all right, wasn't it? It was a bit. You chuck a centre back up, and what happens is it's just mayhem. The opposition are worried. He starts winning a few headers, chucking a few volleys in. I mean, yeah, I think, at least Fergie tried something, and in this situation, at least Ralf tried something, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You've got to try something a bit different. I don't know, by the school of thought of that, maybe in a different scenario, Phil Jones might have had an even better return if he'd have gone up top for the last 5.
That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. Look, Jones was very strong in the tackle again on the 87th. It was a crucial challenge, actually. If he hadn't made that challenge, they were going 2-0 up probably. Released it to Rashford, and this is the moment I was talking about earlier, Ben. Mm. The absolute shocker of a pass when Cristiano Ronaldo's out there. Rashford's right-footed. The ball he had to play was with the curl. It wasn't, if it was on the other side and he has to play it with the outside of his right foot or with the left foot or with the curl not benefiting you, right? Like going too close to the defenders. This was the perfect scenario, Ben. Absolutely perfect. On his right foot, going out towards the right. All you need to do is caress it down that flank, pretty much anywhere in that zone, and Ronaldo's getting onto it. And inexplicably, he managed to botch it.
Yeah, no excuses. It was, I can't come up with any reason why he didn't make that pass, but the truth is he didn't.
Yeah. He didn't. Look, there was. It did annoy me, I must say, on the 91st when I don't know who it was. One of their players went down the Old Trafford hill that we always talk about, got the ball, and then chucked the ball down the hill, basically away from the field. Now I see people booked for kicking the ball away in like the 30th minute, 70th minute, or these kind of things. Right? This was proper time wasting. He had the ball. He chucked it away from the pitch, and just because it didn't happen on the field of play, the refs never get involved, right? But that was real time wasting there. Mike Dean not interested at all. We had a deep corner, didn't we? On the 93rd, Sarr almost spilt it into Cavani, and Rashford again wasting the ball on the byline. 95th minute, possible last chance. Again wasted. And then Phil Jones, just the icing on the cake, wasn't it? Showed all his best attributes to win that header. Must have been at waist height, right? Wins the header at waist height, takes the boot in the face, wins a free kick 20 yards out to try and tie the game. What more could you ask from the guy?
Oh, well, that teed off his night, didn't he, really? He did everything he could, and like you said, that is the epitome of Phil Jones, isn't it? Throw his head where other people put their feet, even when it's a detriment to himself.
Yep. And that is a part of him that I absolutely love. And the free kick, you're thinking you got Cristiano Ronaldo, you got Bruno Fernandes over there. Of course, Bruno Fernandes has been more successful at free kicks in recent years. Managed to get it off Ronaldo. So that captain's armband had a weird and wonderful effect in it tonight or last night. Unfortunately, Sarr managed to parry away the Fernandes free kick, and Cavani couldn't use the rebound either. And of course, Mike Dean was scrambling towards his whistle as soon as the ball left the box. And 1-0 to Wolves, mate. And unfortunately, the first loss under Ralf Rangnick.
Yeah, the first loss, and maybe it shows up stuff that is obviously was there before. So I think that's pretty obvious to say, and it's not something just new for this game. It's clearly with a different formation, it's with different tactics tried, but for some reason the players are coming up with similar results, and I think that's the deepest thing that needs looking into. And when we look at the going forward, isn't it? I think the onus is obviously it's on everyone, but I think the intensity. Well, that's the main thing that we keep coming back to in a minute, and it almost bores you that you have to come back with it, because a criticism of a football, it almost seems like a really easy one to say, oh, they should be running harder or being more intense or playing 100%. That almost seems like an easy thing to throw at a footballer, and quite more often than not, it's pretty unjust, because the players normally do give 100% commitment. But at the minute against Wolves, it was very, very poor, and the reaction needs to be not just post-match interviews, not just I've not seen any, but apologies on social media, or we go again, or any of that nonsense that we've seen this season at times. It just needs to be shown on the pitch now.
Yes, it does indeed, Ben. I mean, it is like you say, it's time just to start improving. But I would like us to just en masse as United fans, just be a little bit more patient. Just be a little bit more understanding of the situation that we were in. The situation has got better, and just to be a little bit more patient and understand that we were in a bad situation. We've been in a bad situation. To get out of it, we're going to have some ups and downs. But I want to get out of it. Personally, I want to get out of it. I think everyone else does too. And we've got to give ourselves a chance. And I think by jumping on, this is why I had a go at Gary Neville the last week, because, I would say that what happened there did not help the next game at all. All it was is negative focus on Manchester United again. And I just think it's about time we gave ourselves a bit of time off as well, right? From moaning and being stressed, and just believe that we can go in a different direction. We've got someone who's respected by managers all over the world. The last time he chose a manager to replace him was Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann's now Bayern Munich manager, right? So let's have a bit of patience. Let's give United a chance, for God's sake, because the way we're acting at the moment, this knee-jerk reaction, like that we are, we're the worst again, and maybe it wasn't Ollie, maybe it was all the players, and we've got a squad full of crap players. We're never going to get back to the top with that attitude, Ben. From the fans, starting from the fans, I beg your pardon. We've got to start acting differently.
Yeah, no, spot on, mate. And I think that's right. Look, it's good to it's important to criticise players and performances, and the manager and the team performances. But you're right. We still stick together. We still see that there is still a period of embedding with a new manager. It's got to be said. We've said about it enough times on the pod now. But the things that he's dealt with since he's got in the club and the position that he found himself when he took over, there's a lot there to be improved. But we know the improvement can be made. So I think that's the important thing. It's not a lost cause. We're not looking at players and thinking, "Where's the hope?" Look at the team. Look at the quality of the players that we've got. We've got a team good enough to do the things we're talking about. So it's not a question of ripping everything up and starting again, or
no way,
anything like this. But you're right. It's a reaction to a game, a really poor performance, but it doesn't need to be a a wholehearted look at the whole of the squad and start again sort of thing.
No, absolutely not. And you have a man of the match for me, mate?
I mean, it's difficult
I
to
tell you
pick one,
what.
isn't it? But
Yeah, go on.
go
There's
on.
no goal scorer, right?
That's the get out of jail free card's gone. And no, to be honest, like man of the match. I mean, you've got to look at Phil Jones, haven't you?
Here
Really,
we go.
you've got to,
Yeah,
because
why not?
I think we've romanticised him about a little bit about him tonight and his early days at United. But I think it's important that he's come back in the team, and he looked every bit a player. Look, I've seen him play better against Wolves than I've seen Maguire play for the last 5 games. So the fact that he's coming in to replace official club captain and play even better and perhaps deserve a spot come next week if he's fit, then I think you've got to say fair play to the guy for everything he's been, for the injuries, for the disrespect, for everything like that. And I think whatever his future holds, whatever comes to pass of Phil Jones' career to come next, I think he covered himself pretty well the other night, and I think he's like you said, it was obviously his dream to come back and play for United, and he's done that now.
Yes, mate. And I'm just reading between the lines here from what you said there. But Harry Maguire's the first choice for England, right, as well. And you're talking about now Phil Jones coming in. So, I mean, there you go, right? You got to dream big. Look, mate, yeah, fair enough. From the expectations, from the ridicule he's had, he put in a good display, right? It was a good display. He was helped by the rest of the team not putting in a great display in terms of getting his man of the match award. So, yeah, bottle of champagne or a little mini Michelin man for him. What do you reckon?
Oh, give him a bottle of champagne. Why not? I mean,
he can have both in the bag of Haribos, as far as I'm concerned.
As long as he doesn't share it with anyone else after that performance, but it's fine.
And as long as he doesn't drop it on his foot.
Yeah.
Great stuff, mate. Anything else to add?
No, that's it for me, mate.
Yeah, we covered it pretty much before we got stuck into the game, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we say, like we do on the pod, it's important for us to chat and get everything out, and as United fans to all. But we do it together, don't we? And then we go again, and next week FA Cup we go again, and we're dreaming about winning it before we kick off. That's what it's all about.
We've got the double Villa, haven't we?
Oh, we have, mate.
I hate that. Normally I hate that. So in the past I hated that when we were a top team, right? Because I thought if a team's got 2 bites of us within a week, then the chances of dropping some points or possibly going out of the cup in one of them are increased. Now our standards lower. I'm not so worried about it, right? So maybe we'll win both. But yeah, we've got, as you say, Villa in the cup. We've got Villa in the league as well, and a chance for a few of the players who haven't been playing to come in. And yeah, like I say, it's not time to be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's time to just be a little bit patient. I know our last interim manager came in and won his first 12 on the bounce, didn't he? But everything doesn't always end up how it started.
No, I like that, mate, and it's true. Let's see what happens next week now, and let's see what the reaction is from these players.
Absolutely, mate. Brilliant stuff. Well, cheers so much for jumping on today, pal.
No problem at all, mate. Super sub, you could say.
You know it. Off the bench, right? Come in number 20. Anyway, thanks so much for listening again. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to the pod, Apple Podcast or on Spotify. As I've mentioned before, if you can whack us a 5-star review, that would be fantastic. Keep them coming. I've noticed there are plenty on there as well. So, really, thanks so much for that and for the support. If you've got the time, like I say, just hit that subscribe button. Hit the 5 stars as well. If you'd like to become a member of the pod, get over to patreon.com/United100. Look at the different tiers on there. And if you want to become a member, as I say, you'll be in our Discord chat, and you have a few other perks too. And of course, Ben, as I mentioned on the last pod, for our existing members and new members, I'm going to start doing a thing where they give a little opinion or give a question, and then we bounce off them as well. So instead of just having my opinion, your opinion, and Scott's opinion, Ben, we'll bring a few other United opinions in as well, and see if a few people can change their mind.
Yeah, in the hot seat, it'll be exciting to see what people come up with.
You know it, absolutely. So that might be a bit of fun as well. Get over to vintageunitedshirts.com. Use the promo code United100 for shirts and Icons100 for artwork. And he's got another new drop coming in January as well. So I'll keep you updated with that. We'll be back after the Villa game. Hopefully Scott will have will have hiked out of the mountains by then and got out of the snow. But until then, thanks for joining me so much today, Ben.
Nice one, mate. Cheers, guys.
Take care. Cheerio, Reds.